The Financial Survival Network, helping you to survive and thrive in the new economy. Get your free financial survival toolkit and find out where to buy gold and silver safely at great prices. Sign up at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. This is the Financial Survival Network.
1490 WGCH. This is Kerry Lutz, and you're listening to the Financial Survival Network, which is brought to you by Miles Franklin. They've been in business selling gold since 1990, and I'm a customer because when you buy, they ship. To find out more, go to milesfranklin.com or call them at 800-822-8080 and get a free quote. We are here live at Freedom Fest 2012 in the scorched economic climate of Las Vegas, Nevada. With me is Gary Johnson, former governor of New Mexico and current Libertarian candidate for president. Hey, Gary, welcome to the Financial Survival Network.
Kerry, I appreciate being on the Financial Survival Network.
Yeah, well, we're all about surviving and thriving in the new economy, and you're running because you see a lot of fundamental problems with the country, right?
Well, I do, and I'm making a couple of promises as President of the United States. One is to submit a balanced budget to Congress in the year 2013, believing that unless we balance the federal budget, we're going to find ourselves in the midst of a monetary collapse. And very simply, and I'm sure you discuss this all the time, that is when the dollars that we have don't buy a thing. And then I'm also promising to advocate on the part of throwing out the income tax, throwing out corporate tax, throwing out the IRS and replacing it with one federal consumption tax, in this case, the fair tax. I think that it would really reboot the American economy, that it would be fair, that we would issue pink slips to half of Washington lobbyists because they're there to buy loopholes, and if there aren't any loopholes to sell, they're not going to be around selling them.
Buying them.
Selling them, buying them.
And creating them. I know you've got a record of doing this very thing. When you were governor, I think you vetoed 790 different...
750 bills.
750. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to exaggerate.
No, well, and that may have been more bills vetoed than the other 49 governors in the country combined. Had thousands of line item vetoes on top of those. Mm-hmm. Only 2 were overridden, so it really made a difference when it came to billions of dollars worth of spending, and when it came to all sorts of legislation that I think was just going to infringe on your and my time and money, and why do it?
Yeah, exactly. So we had that panel up there consisting of Steve Forbes and a number of other luminaries in the media and the blogosphere. And they're talking like we've got a lot of time to solve this problem. In your view, how much time do we have before this whole thing just collapses?
Well, of course, people make a living trying to predict bond market and where the bond market is headed. And we are talking about a bond market collapse. This is going to be the precipitator of all this happening. I'll just say, without going on a limb, that it is going to happen. Of course, if any of us could predict that, why, we're in the wrong business, I guess.
Yeah, the sooner we fix it, the better, obviously.
And you can talk about a few pivotal events. One of them is a bond market collapse, which, of course, raises the interest that we're paying will raise the interest that we're paying on the debt to the highest ticket item within the budget. I mean, this is something that you have to think is going to happen at some point in the future. And then at what point in the future is interest on the debt more than everything else? When it exceeds revenue, well, that's the collapse.
Yeah, and we're at the point now, it's $300 billion at almost at 1% interest. It goes up to 5 or 8. I mean, we all remember the 70s with 20% interest rates, 80s.
Exactly. If we just return to historic, and by the way, I want to just point out the obvious. There are thousands of people that make their living doing this, and we got 1.5% now on the 30-year. Clearly, the bets are that this is not going to happen tomorrow, but it is going to happen. It is going to happen, And if we just return to historical interest rates, which is just over 5% on the 30-year, why interest on the debt is then becomes the largest ticket item in the federal budget.
Sure, it'll go up to $1 trillion a year. And it's not the kind of thing that we can grow our way out of. We need fundamental reform, don't we?
We need fundamental reform, and I think it starts with balancing the money that we receive with the amount of money that we're spending. I think it is tax reform also that really perpetuates what I'll call crony capitalism, and there's politicians that don't understand the difference between crony capitalism and free markets, and this is what this conference is all about in a nutshell, I think, and that's why it's so terrific.
Yeah, my friend Jay Taylor calls it crapitalism because it's not capitalism, because when you have where the government is indispensable to financial success for certain individuals, that's not capitalism, that's fascism.
And that's what we've got today. Look, the loopholes are for sale. Both parties are selling the loopholes, and plenty of interests out there willing to pay for them.
Oh, yeah, never a shortage of that. So you were a Republican candidate. You didn't get a lot of traction. Why didn't you get traction? Because, in my humble opinion, you had the best message, and you had the best track record of anybody out there. So what was it about the dynamics of the system that prevented you from being a viable or the most viable candidate?
It was actually CNN News. They're the ones that did it. They excluded me from the second debate, and that really cast everything in concrete. But what they said was that I needed to be at 1% in A, B, and C polls. Well, I wasn't in A, B, and C polls. So how do you get in the debate if you're not in the polls? And then 10 months ago, CNN included me in their first biweekly poll that they did. I was at 2% in that poll, which at that time tied me with Kane, put me ahead of Santorum, put me ahead of Huntsman. There was a debate coming up in a couple of weeks. After my name appeared in that poll, they dropped my name from the poll for my name to never reappear without any explanation whatsoever. So this is exclusion in a way that goes completely unnoticed by everybody. CNBC issued 2 criteria for their first debate. One was 4% in any national poll. I was at 4% in Gallup in May. Can't deny that. And the other was be registered to run as President of the United States. I was registered to run as President of the United States. They would not return our phone calls as to why I did not have a seat on the stage. After about half the debates, they stopped issuing criteria for the debates at all. They just made it invitation only, and I was excluded. So this is manipulation of our elective process in a way that I think goes completely unnoticed by everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I knew you were kept out. I wasn't exactly sure what the mechanics were. So if you were doing it again today, what would you do differently to break through that barrier?
Well, I've made a change to the party that I've always been a member of in heart and spirit, and that would be the Libertarian Party. So I don't think I'm going to ever have to go through this again, and I do believe that there is a choice in this presidential election, and that it's me. I'm the only candidate that wants to end the wars now. I'm the only candidate that wants to balance the budget. And I'm the only candidate, really, when it comes to civil liberties, protecting those civil liberties and not eroding them any further.
Gary, wish you the best of luck, and we'll be keeping an eye out on you, and I hope it goes well.
Great. It will. Thank you. Thank you.